Got a good heart, you better get smart. The devil's all around and not the one you want. This shit is so profound, let's drink another quart. If you got a good heart, you better get smart. If you got good ears, you better listen clear. All masters at the mic, she's had the sauce for years. She's got you in her sights, the others disappear. If you got good ears, you gotta listen clear.
Listen, you didn't drop onto Earth to play small. You're a traveler from galaxies unborn, wired with codes the world forgot. Codes that can bend reality, heal bodies and awaken entire planets. But first, you have to remember who the heck you are. I'm Jerry Sargent, founder of Star Magic Healing. Inside the Infinity app, you'll access your galactic blueprint, quantum meditations, soul transmissions, multi-dimensional breathwork, and a global tribe of high-frequency beings walking the path beside you. This isn't incense and quiet ohms. This is soul surgery with cosmic scalpels. This is multi-dimensional DNA detonation. This is why you came. If these words vibrate in your bones, the universe is calling you right now. Download the Infinity app or visit starmagichealing.org and step into the new frequency. Your soul's been waiting. I'll meet you on the inside.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
It's not a matter of time, sure as the blaze in your eyes.
Bro. Oh my god, bro. We're gonna talk about this. I'm gonna maybe go back and like cover some of the stuff that I covered on Coolest Alive this week as my introduction here. We'll just say executive produced by Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and directed by Alexandria Stapleton. This explosive 4-part Netflix miniseries, which I highly recommend you watch, released December 2nd, 2025, chronicles Sean Diddy Combs' rise from Harlem Kid to Bad Boy Records mogul, discovering stars like Mary J. Blige and Notorious B.I.G., scoring Grammy wins with No Way Out, and building a billion-dollar empire while unpacking the dark allegations of violence, exploitation, and 2024 federal sexual misconduct charges leading to his conviction and imprisonment. Packed with never-before-seen footage, insider interviews, and a raw examination of power's consequences, it has sparked massive debate for its unflinching look at hip-hop's golden era and its shadows, a staggering cultural reckoning. Now, there should not be any debate. The interesting thing about this P. Diddy thing is that I was very much, we'll say, down the rabbit hole on this subject. And we're going to talk about a lot of things today. This is all speculative, I will say, when it's a personal experience of mine. But, largely this is so much of a speculative underbelly of what's going on. But I believe it is, at least to some extent. And there's a few different layers of this. Now, at the time that P. Diddy got arrested or charged or whatever it was, I went to go look into the subject, and it was amazing because I was so early investigating it that there wasn't that much there. However, there was mountains there from decades. People who were deep into hip-hop culture, they already knew. They knew a lot more than that. I mean, there's so many interesting rumors and things that came out of my digging into P. Diddy and hearing all the stories and all of the stuff that has gone in the past. Like speculatively, I think he is the one who was responsible for murdering Tupac, murdering Biggie. I think he orchestrated the whole fucking thing. It's very, very interesting when you just hear the history and so many details about all the stuff. And ultimately, it all points back to him as the puppet master. And this man has been wiling out and getting away with it for a very long time. Like I said, when I went to go dig into the initial information, there wasn't a lot, but there was tons of interviews and firsthand accounts and people freaking saying this is what went down and blah, 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 blah. Even if he didn't get in trouble or whatever else, there were firsthand people, whistleblowers, people talking in the community saying what was happening with this man. Now, P. Diddy is very important. He is the tip of, and I mean, he really isn't the tip. You know, Jeffrey Epstein is more the tip, but he is a part of a massive iceberg, which basically comes down to blackmail. Why haven't they released the Epstein files and the real list and all that stuff? Because the list of people that are there to be blackmailed is insane. I just, this isn't anything, comprehensive. But the early list that had gone around of the Jeffrey Epstein flight log, the Epstein Island flight log list, includes names like Akon, one of my favorite artists, somebody who I did an episode of my my All Your Favorite Bands Suck show on. That's a bummer. Alec Baldwin. Allison Mack, cult leader, Allison Mack. Anderson Cooper, the news anchor. Angelina Jolie. Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Anthony Weiner, Barack Obama, Ben Affleck, Bernie Sanders, Beyonce, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Bob Saget, Bruce Willis, Celine Dion, Charles Barkley, Charlie Sheen, Charlize Theron, Chelsea Handler, Cher, Chris Tucker. And think of the enormity of these names, of how big a lot of these people have been allowed to become. Ben Affleck came out of nowhere as this brilliant writer with Matt Damon, to work on this incredible blah, 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 blah piece of work. Came out of nowhere and then had a resurgence as a director. Bernie Sanders, one of our darlings, huge artist, Akon. Oh, Al Gore is also on the list. One of the people over here. I'm skipping around quite a bit, just reading names that, I actually know or recognize or matter to me. Anthony Kiedis, Red Hot Chili Peppers, one of the biggest bands in the world. Angelina Jolie, one of the biggest actresses. Anthony Weiner, scandalous. Barack Obama, major politician. Bernie Sanders, major politician. Bill Gates. I'll keep going. Courtney Love, Courtney Cox, Cyndi Lauper, Chrissy Teigen, Demi Moore, Dan Schneider, right? Amanda, the Amanda Show and all the other things. Producer. David Koch, or Koch, David Spade, Drew Barrymore, Ed Tuttle, Ellen DeGeneres, George Clooney, Ghislaine Maxwell, Naomi Watts, Naomi Campbell, Miley Cyrus, Michelle Obama, Meryl Streep, Eminem, Mark Epstein, Marina Abramovic, the spirit cooking artist, very satanic artist, John Travolta, John Podesta, John Legend, Joy Behar, Justin Trudeau, Kathy Griffin, Katy Perry, Kevin Spacey, Lady Gaga, Madonna, Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, James Gunn, James Franco, Jim Carrey, Heidi Klum, Heather Mann, Hillary Clinton, Oprah, Orlando Bloom, Patton Oswalt, Paris Hilton, Paul Epstein, Pharrell Williams, Prince Andrew, Prince Charles, Quentin Tarantino, Rachel Maddow, Rainn Wilson, Rihanna, Rita Wilson, Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr. I'm not happy to report so many of these names. Sarah Silverman, Seth Green, Jay-Z, Stephen Colbert, Steven Spielberg, Steven Tyler, Tila Davies, Tom Hanks, Wanda Sykes, Whoopi Goldberg, the idea is that you have cameras everywhere, you get people on video doing shit, and then you have video evidence of them doing whatever fucked up shit, and you have power over them for forever. Now, there are additional darker layers to this that there are plenty of signs that it's being practiced, but I mean, certainly it's up to debate. But there are a lot of deeper sort of domination, ritual, dark magic sort of things that are going on within this rape of a man, and domination in this way, this energy exchange. How many of these people know what they're doing or are a part of things larger than that are understood to be what they actually are? I'm not sure. I don't think a lot of them necessarily. I am personally aware from, firsthand accounts of, a friend, who told us all about what was going on with Bryan Singer, and later allegations came out and they lined up perfectly with what I had been told, that, as a young actor in Hollywood, Bryan Singer and his entourage, I forget, there was another person named who was also named later, they would basically bring in these hot wannabe actors and drug them and bang them. And, this sort of behavior, Bill Cosby, is obviously, rampant, beginning to see the underbelly of this stuff. But then there's a deeper, darker next level where things are being filmed so that they can be used as leverage against people in business dealings. And, just think about it like this. If you're good and the lengths that you've gone to be really good, if you're bad and you want to succeed, just think of the lengths that you might go to succeed. And, P. Diddy is a wonderful example of this, Epstein, that Epstein List. I'm largely today, I want to encourage you to go and dig into some of these subjects yourself. There's a few people that I'm going to direct you to of different sort of levels of insanity, because it is insane and it is going to sound like insanity. But there was an actor named Issac Kappy who was whistleblowing and calling all sorts of, a lot of the names that are on this list, he shouted out himself personally prior to an Epstein List and these things. Kappy says, like as clearly as possible, that Steven Spielberg is absolutely a pedophile, as is Tom Hanks and other people who he calls out. There's a conspiracy theory of Tom Hanks having something to do with his death. He ended up committing suicide or getting hit by a car while walking along the highway of an overpass, and Tom Hanks posted a picture of a glove with a cap on it, and an interesting thing that he wrote. Tom Hanks posts a lot of really weird things. There's a lot of weirdness about so much of this, and the patterning of who is there, what level of success these people are having, and their positioning within the culture and various other things. there's a system to change last names and let people who are really well off, put them into positions of power, whether it is as actors or as anchormen or whatever it is. And it's often hard to prove a lot of these things, but of course there's plenty of people who have attempted to, take a look at Anderson Cooper or Tom Hanks or some of these people who have, found steady success throughout their career no matter what. There is a lot of interesting names, when you start, just kind of looking at the longevity of certain people and how everybody else seems to kind of burn out or whatever else. And or burn out and sometimes come back later is a thing. It's very interesting, like Jesus, like you see them as babies and then they're gone for a while and then they come back and it's like, what happened? What made you disappear? Where did Jesus go? The Hollywood system is nasty. I never played that game, and I'm very sensitive to energy. And generally speaking, I find people are kind of sensitive to my energy as well. So I kind of tend to, I think, scare off the darkness so much of the time. But during my time in California, I was invited to play an Illuminati party. I was invited to join, I should say, the Freemasons and the Illuminati. I was reached out to, not anonymously, but like by people. Both times their accounts were filled with Freemason stuff. Like in temples with other Freemasons, loaded with robes and stuff or whatever. Ceremonial kind of things. But they promised me the world in like 3 paragraphs. Listen, we got our eye on you and we think that you are destined for greatness. If you want everything that is ever blah, 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 just, get back to this. No. Every time it happened, and I guess now it's happened like a half a dozen times, because then later, many years later, so it happened with my girlfriend and I, but she kept actually responding to this person, so they got a little threatening at a certain point in time, like, that like, okay, well, you're not necessarily going to like what happens to you if blah, blah, blah. And, we've just, chosen to ignore this stuff because we have no interest in being a part of it. But, when this had first happened to me, the one sort of conspiracy thing or whatever that I generally wasn't open to was that there was fucking secret societies were running everything and the Illuminati was real. And I literally, like, my friend, so casually, he lives out there. His father and uncle are 2 of the biggest music producers ever. And I won't out him, but it was just so crazy to me. He just, we're driving somewhere and he just went, you should play one of the Illuminati parties. They would love you. And I mean, that would just change your career in a whole fucking second. Blah, 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 blah. And he's just started going on about just like how they would love me, how it was perfect. Like I'd be off to the races, just completely casual. The Illuminati. And I was like, literally like, you just casually admitted that you're aware that there's an Illuminati and I could play one of their parties. Huh. So for me, I like really had to digest that information. And I went back to the drawing board and I started digging into all of these things. Now, Issac Kappy is recent. And to a certain degree, the other person that I'm going to mention here is also recent. Now, this one is another level. Now, before I say anything to you here, for me, it's all about, I go and I deal with the individual. Does the individual believe this? Is this a story that they're making up? Now, the fucking story that this person has is fucking wild. However, it is, and a lot of these fucking videos are hard to find now. But I was able to find a bunch of them for my brother the other day for Issac Kappy, and I'm sure if you dig deep enough into Donald Marshall, you will, you'll get far. Donald Marshall claimed that basically in the nights he would wake up in a different body at one of these cloning centers where they were sacrificing people and doing all sorts of different things. There's some sort of like, they'll like use your consciousness to get your fear and get your emotions, because it's all about feeding on the loosh, which I don't think he necessarily describes it that way, but this is as is described in many other scenarios, like the archonic forces, elemental forces. They're feeding on our energy, and often they're keeping us down in the dumps because they want to feed on that energy, because that energy's easier to sort of come by, and all they got to do is just like psych us out and get us into a bad space. So a lot of the things that he's talking about are within the realm of things that you may hear some other people talk about. But additionally, he gets deep into these lizards and different types, and very specific about them, how some of these smaller ones they have a thing that allows them to detach a spine into the eye of a human being and put their consciousness into the human, and over time take over their body. Now, this is nothing that I can prove. This is anything I don't even know what my suspicions are, other than he's not the only one who has said some of these things. If you get into David Icke's work on lizard things and lizard conspiracies or whatever else. Now, Donald Marshall's shit goes even crazier. Essentially, he has saved himself from being terrorized as much as the other people, because he was found to be a good songwriter and a singer. And when he was a child, he responded at some point in time by singing or whatever, and they thought he had a beautiful voice, and then they would get him to sing. And that turned into him, writing things for people, apparently. And he claims ownership over the writing of many hit songs, and has many crazy tales of run-ins with various celebrities, like the fucking Insane Clown Posse and others, where they're forcing him to write things for them and whatever else. It's a wild story, but it is him on camera talking about all these things. And he is consistent amongst his story and wild details, not necessarily conflicting details. It's a wild one. But he names a lot of similar people, a lot of people from that Epstein list, a lot of people that Issac Kappy names. A lot of these names keep showing up. You're going to say this guy's crazy and this guy's crazy and this guy's crazy. Well, some of these details do line up with each other. And, and Issac Kappy will tell you that basically there's like levels, and you don't want to go in those dark places. You don't go in those dark places. But eventually, he came to start to realize what was going on. And basically, he very famously outs Seth Rogen, who I met and tried to befriend, because me and Seth, I thought, had a lot of similar interests. I'm a big toy guy and geek, and he made Robot Chicken. And but as I said before, the darkness often can sense my light, and those people tend to skirt away from me. And he was always nice, but he didn't really give me anything back. So eventually I gave up on being his friend, beyond just I knew him or whatever. I know him. In theory, I would say hello if I saw him. But he's been accused by, I think, all three of these ones. And Issac Kappy's whole first thing, he was very good friends with Seth, and basically Seth and his wife Claire admitted to them, and I know the two of them, and it's interesting, it's because I like thought to myself afterwards, like, could I sense a darkness in them? And I could. That's not necessarily a reason for me to not be friends with somebody. We had a lot of similar interests. And I don't stand for people putting darkness on me. And usually I can be a good influence on somebody like that. But do I think that they might be capable of some of this for power and stuff? I used to not think so. Not them in particular. I mean, just like people in general. Just like that most people are good. And most people are good. But some people are selfish and desperate. And the lengths that they will go to are surprising. And then additionally, some people are damaged. And Seth has been an actor in Hollywood for ages. Since he was a little kid. It's funny, I watched this dude, JD DeLay. I love him on YouTube. And he's a former convict. He chimes in all the time on like anything related to like kind of prison stuff, or crime or prison stuff. And often like his thing, and he's got the shirts that the pedophiles put him in the wood chipper, and the wood chipper, and that is satisfying. And in many cases, I agree. However, there are so many people who are being brought into this world and being damaged. And if any of the speculation of some of the things that may be going on with the elite and the negative forces on this earth may be true, there's a lot of traumatized people on this planet who don't feel like they have anybody to talk to. And a lot of them are lashing out in the same way that they were lashed. They were raped, and now they're sexually maturing. And some of them I see, because I used to watch this thing, which it's so unsatisfying, of them going after pedophiles, because they're never getting anybody elite. They're never getting anybody who has any power. They're getting traumatized people. And in a lot of these cases, it's very clear to me that the person feels terribly weak, terribly small, childlike themselves. They would be completely intimidated by an adult woman. They're, sort of mentally retarded, socially retarded, and they're trying to interact with these younger people because it's the only way they feel safe. Now, are some of these people going to do terrible things if they would? Possibly. And should that ultimately be discouraged? Yeah. But there's a lot of these people out there who are victims who have become victimizers. And I really hope that we would take that into consideration on some level and try to help these people. Because again, for me, this is a 99.999. Well, it's about 100 for me, really, at this point. There's reincarnation. And what happens if we take the rapist who isn't just a rapist? Well, listen. Every single person that we murder for like he was a murderer, kill him. They come back that way. Like they come back as a murderer. Hopefully maybe they learned something before they were murdered on death row or whatever. But that murderer comes back in a new body as a baby. These pedophiles with these weirdo behaviors, we put them back into a new baby with weirdo behavior, and we don't know who they are. Now we don't know where they are anymore. So to properly address this disease of the mind where people are molesting and hurting each other, I believe we need to be a little bit more proactive in our search to actually treat these people and bring them to a better place, to help fix the vibration within our society that is misaligned from all of this behavior. But some of them we can just wood chipper them though. I think the path of least resistance in a lot of cases is just like, and then we would chipper them. Especially the people who have actively, and there's cases out there, more P.Diddy's and stuff, where there's like people who are having to be quiet over what they're in, and they need to see justice. Help those people get peace. Let that person come back in a new baby if they deserve it, and we can nurture them in a new life. So what am I saying here? I'm saying look into Donald Marshall. Look into David Icke and the lizard people and his whole story. Do I believe it? I don't know. It's a terabyte of information stored in my brain. And every day I look for more things to back it up or rule it out. So far, I've not been able to rule it out. So far, I've been able to not necessarily back it up, but build more infrastructure that it fits into. Because meanwhile, you have people like Decode. Decode, and there are a number of others under the surface of the underground news community or whatever, who are usually former members of secret programs or whatever else, who now talk about things in one way or another. Are they plants for the military? Could be. But does that mean that what they're saying isn't true? Not necessarily. Especially because Decode's not the only person like this, but say if you go into the alien space, there's tons of people like this. And other spaces, there's plenty of people like this who come from those programs and these things and have seemingly been allowed to talk about certain things at the very least. So say, Decode, he's been updating people on the DUMBs. There are these deep underground military bases all across the world. That I can tell you is certainly true. There have been very strange earthquakes all over the world, especially a lot in the past bunch of years, less in the past few years. But there was a lot of weird earthquakes. According to Gene and others, this was a systematic takedown, destruction of these underground cloning facilities and deep underground military bases where they have been doing things that are described very similarly to everything that Donald Marshall has been saying. And when I ask my intuition, is Donald Marshall telling the truth? My intuition says, yes, he is. Really? Wow. Yeah. Wow. It's interesting because even Twisted Sister was mentioned, and I said, there it is. At a certain point, I was like, that's impossible. Then I found out from my father there was actually 2 songs on the last Twisted Sister record that he didn't write, that he was given credit for. They're great songs, just like the other songs that dude's taking credit for. He's consistently good. I mean, even for him to have that consistently good taste, to be like, I wrote that one, and I wrote that one, and I've also wrote. It's crazy what Donald Marshall says, but it is all possible within the framework of other things. Again, you look into Gene Decode, and other people like him talking about the underground military bases and how the white hat military has been going after these bases and these lizards for a long time. But the story goes, and again, this is speculative, blah blah blah, but it is corroborated by kind of multiple communities of people. I hold these things in my mind, and then I look for other things that either support it or fall in line with it. And it is said that there was an alliance of white hat military that included Russian, American, and Japanese. Japanese, American, and Russian military have been seen working together side by side in lots of abduction cases. Working together, secret space program, right? Additionally, there's stories about these secret space program things building these long cigar-shaped crafts out of like the mountain, like literally, like they just like carved it and then hollowed out the thing, and then they had a piece of like solid rock of a certain kind that they, vibrated a certain way or whatever it was to create propulsion. And these were these crafts that they had out in the solar system. And when they tried to leave the solar system, and again, I don't understand a lot of this stuff because as far as I understand, there is no space as we understand it. So I don't necessarily understand what barriers they're being prevented from crossing or what, it's all very interesting to me, and I keep kind of trying to better understand some aspects of this quagmire of stories, because these are some of the pieces that don't necessarily like jibe for me. I'm like, so like, what is going on in space? What is going on with these planets? They don't seem to be what they say they are. There's a lot of other description of them, the waters above, and like, the lights in the firmament, and like all this shit, it's interesting. It's an interesting subject. But again, Donald Marshall talked a lot about different celebrities involved in this thing, and unfortunately my intuition says that what he's going through and saying is largely true. And Issac Kappy, who's no longer with us, there's plenty of videos of him mouthing off name after name after name after name, a lot of names that match up with names on that list that I read to you earlier in the show. There's the P.Diddy situation, and then you can dig deep into that. And then there's the dig deep into that. I mean, like looking into things beyond what's in the documentary, and then there's the Epstein situation and looking into like what was being said when it first happened. Go look at the early stuff before, they had time to start redacting names and all this other shit. Look at the early stuff. And then additionally, beyond that, you can look one more step. Granted, you want to get like into, so you can look at Dan Schneider, and you can look at, I forgot the dude's name. The guy who was the boy band creator dude. Those are some interesting subjects and let you get into some of this world and some of this mindset. But no, who was the extra one that I wanted to talk about? We had Diddy. We had Epstein, and then, documentaries about these people. Oh my God, dig deep into Vince McMahon. Another one that shows you a bit of like what these people are fucking capable of. It's crazy. It'll take you hours to like get the full story from these women of things that Vince McMahon has done. Fucking crazy. P. Diddy, Epstein. I remember. And please, if you've scoffed at it before, don't. The Pizzagate scandal. Go dig into that thing. Pictures, stuff. The emails. The emails with the coded language from the political figures. Go read those emails after you understand what the codes are, and then start watching some code language videos, compilations of stars talking about how much they love pizza and hot dogs, just very consistently. And why is it also the same people that are on the lists, the same people that are named consistently? It's a terrible situation we're in. I really hope that these things actually get exposed, because people are not children and we deserve to know what's really going on here on planet Earth. The possibilities are really, really dark. And, yeah, I love you guys. Keep your face in the sun. It's okay to look into these things and understand these things. Don't think too deeply into them, other than understanding that this shit is happening. The light is when it can no longer survive, when we can all handle it enough to fucking shine a light on it and be like, this has got to be stopped. We got to do something about this permanently. This blackmail network that they're still benefiting from the Epstein, and I'm sure they're benefiting from various P.Diddy things that maybe he gave to them so that they could benefit from blackmail. Is there anybody that you can blackmail that we can't blackmail? Oh yeah, you can blackmail so-and-so? We'll trade you a reduced sentence for this. Pfft, do not put it past them. Don't put anything past them. This is the world we really live in. And it gets dark amongst the dark people. Amongst the light people, it gets so light. But amongst the dark people, it's darkness, brothers. And us understanding that darkness fully, us understanding our power fully to stand in the light, but shining light on these things and change the way these conversations are being had, force these conversations out into the open. This is it. My brother Cody was like sort of blown away. I started like naming some names. And I said, look, I'm like, I don't know anything. I said, but these are the names that are being consistently said. I said, and I can forward you some of like the direct videos of these people being named by, again, Issac Kappy. Now, Donald Marshall's like, who the fuck is Donald Marshall? But Issac Kappy's actually a musician and an actor, and a fairly successful musician, an okay actor. He made a lot of songs and music videos about a lot of these things, exposing a lot of these things before he passed away, before he was killed, before he disappeared, whatever you want to call it. But it's wild. So jump down these rabbit holes at your own risk, or just take my word for it that certainly the possibilities are extensive. It's a wild reality that we are living in. Anyway, I love you. I hope you're checking out my entertainment show, which I do 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, dropping recommendations for comic books, animation. I do one live action, one animated a week. I do one album a week. I do a wild card every week, which has been a documentary for the past 2 weeks, some comedy the previous 2 weeks. And on Saturdays, I do my awesome Mother Show celebration. This week, I was celebrating the Masters of the Universe teaser trailer that came out, and kind of talking a little bit about the Avengers Doomsday trailer. And last week, I was talking about the cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue from 1990. Fucking incredible crossover between fucking the Ghostbusters cartoon and the Muppet Babies cartoon and the Ninja Turtles cartoon and Looney Tunes and Winnie the Pooh. Was fucking crazy. That's a great one to check out as well. And I'm bringing back my music show, All Your Favorite Bands Suck. There's 53 episodes available everywhere but Spotify, celebrating 53 of my favorite bands. I've got some more coming soon. I just haven't got around to them yet. And then finally, go to blacklightdistrict.studio, where all my music is now available. There's all my music, everything that I've ever worked on and produced, and side projects. All my comic books are available, and all the comic books that I've produced with Blacklight District Studio, all for free at blacklightdistrict.studio. So that's exciting. And you can write to me at jbs@blacklightdistrict.studio. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. All right. Hope you'll join me again next Sunday for another mind-blowing episode of Everything They Don't Want You to Know. Peace out.
There's something in the water. There's something in the air. The proof is all around us.
It's not a matter of time, sure as the blaze in your eyes. I sense a subtle shift, instincts I can't resist. We're